Do you know the one copywriting tactic that can increase customer loyalty by 74%? It's not new, but it's one that's often overlooked and undervalued. And yes, we're talking about archetypes in today's episode. So let's do this. You're listening to the High Conversion Health Marketer Podcast, the show that helps you craft memorable copy and messaging that connects, captivates, and converts. My name is Linda Malone. I'm a certified conversion copywriter and an award-winning content writer whose copy lands my clients major contracts. My mission is to help you, the health and fitness marketer, attract your ideal customer with copy they can't resist so you can grow your business. In today's episode on archetypes, here's what you can walk away with and what you're going to learn today. So number one is you're going to learn how to identify your brand's archetype so you'll have a built-in personality guide for all of your messaging. You're also going to learn, number two, how to write copy that taps into core emotional needs so your copy practically writes itself. And three, you're going to learn how to blend archetypes to create a unique brand personality. This episode idea came to me from a discussion I had with a new client recently. We talked about how the copy should reflect his brand's boldness, be unapologetic, take it or leave it type of attitude. And it really had a very strong personality behind it. And so he wants the copy to reflect that in all of his messaging, which is going to be really fun to write. And the irony is that I also started working with another brand that's not quite the opposite, but it's more serious. It's still fitness oriented. The audience is fitness oriented, but they have a very self-deprecating sense of humor. And he wants to be sure that that is in the copy as well. So what's interesting is both of these brands require me to, get into the mind of the customer, which I do anyway as I write, because it's the only way to really know how this person talks. And I end up visualizing who I'm talking to and the person who is going to be hearing this. So this involves creating like an archetype in my mind. And so once you do this with your copy, it practically writes itself. So, and the reason for this is humans are wired for stories. Okay. Archetypes give brands a way to become the hero or the guide or even the rebel that your audience didn't know they needed. So what I'm going to do first, before I get into the top 3 most popular archetypes, I'm just going to run briefly through the 12 because I don't have time today for all of them, but I want you to know what they are and it may spark some ideas within yourself. So the hero, which we're actually going to talk about today, we're going to talk about core traits and then I'm going to give you some examples. So the hero, core traits for the hero would be they're courageous, they're driven, goal-oriented. So examples are Nike or Spartan Race. Then number 2, we're also going to talk about the caregiver. Compassionate, nurturing, empathic. These are the caregiver's core traits. Think of Dove soap or Curves, the fitness franchise. And the third one we're going to talk about today is the rebel. This is the one I briefly mentioned with my client. Bold, defiant, challenges the status quo. Think of, Harley Davidson, nerd fitness, CrossFit, that sort of thing. The ones I won't get into, but I want to mention so you're aware of them. The creator. So this is the imaginative, creative, driven by innovation like Lego and Apple. The everyman, relatable, down to earth, inclusive. Coca-Cola's, Levi's are 2 of the brands that represent the everyman. The sage. This is like the wise, knowledgeable, trustworthy. Think of TED Talks, Harvard Business Review. Or the magician is another archetype. Visionary, transformative, inspiring change. This would be Disney and Tesla. And then we have the innocent. This would be pure, optimistic, nostalgic, like Coca-Cola. And Dove is considered like a dual archetype. I mentioned Dove under the caregiver, but it also kind of fits under this. Another one is the explorer, the adventurous, curious, free-spirited. Patagonia and Jeep are representative of the explorer archetype. The ruler is authoritative, commanding, and structured. Think of, Rolex or Mercedes-Benz. The lover, passionate, warm, and emotionally connected. Peloton pretty much represents that. So it's like community driven content. And lastly, the Jester, which is fun, playful, like and lighthearted, like Old Spice, Gymshark to some extent. And so a lot of these brands mix archetypes. So Coca-Cola really combines the innocent and the everyman for the nostalgic, everyone's invited kind of vibe. So today, the three, as I mentioned, we're going to focus on are the hero, the caregiver, and the rebel. So you'll find these in everything from hardcore gyms to wellness retreats. So let's start with the hero. So this is the go-to archetype for fitness brands that want to inspire action and achievement. And as I mentioned, the core characteristics are strength, determination, and courage. So they focus on overcoming obstacles, reaching new goals. This appeals to like type A personalities and real goal setters. So I mentioned, Nike, just do it is, their logo and their tagline rather, and Spartan race, push yourself beyond your limit. So these fit that strength, determination, and courage. And so the core inspiration, they use a lot of motivational, like action-driven language. Like greatness doesn't happen by accident, or you're stronger than you think. What's your next finish line is another one. So, and the hero works well when you have an audience that really has a growth mindset, wants to be challenged. You have to be careful not to overdo it, or you risk alienating beginners. So you have to know your audience always. And number two, the caregiver archetype. So if the hero is all about achievement, the caregiver is all about support and empathy. So this archetype resonates with people who maybe feel intimidated by fitness or need guidance on their journey. So the core characteristics, as you would expect, nurturing, empathic, and supportive, and they emphasize progress over perfection. I think of the difference between this and the hero, which is really, what's your next finish line type of thing. This is like, you're okay. We're the judgment-free zone. Like Planet Fitness will be the caregiver. Curves is another one, fitness spaces without judgment. And so the big thing here is no judgment. You do you, we're here to help you feel your best. Your journey is unique and we'll be with you every step of the way. And it's okay even if you make small steps. And by the way, none of these are right or wrong. I mean, they're just different personalities, different audiences, different approaches. As a member of Planet Fitness, and I also belong to another gym, this one is all over the gym. If you ever walked into a Planet Fitness, they have a big thing above the door. Leave your egos here. I always want to say egos. And then I always want to add a G to that sign and just leave a bunch of them there. But it's all about, leave your ego behind and we accept you just as you are. I was doing something the other day at the gym and there's a big banner above the machine that said something like, you are enough, or you're, I mean, I'm not a person that needs that because I've been doing this for so long, but I could see how that would work for a beginner especially. So the caregiver archetype is it just about what you say? It's really how you make people feel. So you want to, if this is your archetype, you want to include testimonials and community stories to like reinforce that trust. And then lastly, and this I have to admit is my favorite just because it's really fun to work with, is the rebel archetype. So this is for the rule breakers, the gym haters, anyone who believes fitness doesn't have to fit into a box kind of thing. It's very defiant, disruptive, and bold. It appeals to people who want freedom and individuality. Don't tell me what to do kind of thing. And so key brands, if you're familiar with Nerd Fitness, they are fitness for geeks. They are, the outsiders, and everything about the brand. When you go on their website, it's all about you don't fit in. If you don't fit anywhere else, it's like the island of misfit toys kind of thing. Like that's the approach I get from there, the feeling I get. This is where you belong because we're all misfits and we're all nerds. And so they reject like traditional gym culture. CrossFit does it as well in a different way. They reject traditional gym culture, and also they reject traditional gym guidelines, I think, or fitness and workout guidelines. I'm not a particular fan of CrossFit for this reason, because I like to do things the way they're proven in CrossFit. I mean, this is their brand. They reject all that. They're like, okay, we're doing our own thing. So the inspiration for your copy, you want to have like that bold, kind of cheeky language. Ditch the treadmill. Fitness should be fun. Break the rules. Break a sweat. Who says working out has to suck? That kind of feeling is what you would get from a rebel archetype. So this works really well when you're targeting non-traditional audiences or you want to differentiate your brand in a crowded market. And again, these are 3 out of the 12. There's so many that could be a blend, which to bring me to the next topic. So most brands won't be purely the hero, the caregiver, or the rebel. In fact, a lot of the most successful fitness brands combine archetypes to create something unique. So an example would be, as I mentioned, Peloton combines the lover archetype and the hero. So they focus on passion, community with a dose of challenge. Beachbody is like the hero and the caregiver. So you want to really experiment. So if you're writing for a brand, thinking about blending archetypes to create your own or their own distinct voice and personality. So if I were to give you some homework for this podcast, I would say think about the brand that you're writing for. And maybe it's your own brand. Well, what archetype fits the mission? Which one is it? Is it one of the top 3? Is it a blend? Is it one of the other ones? Are they are you inspiring heroes? Are you nurturing caregivers or rebellious disruptors? So maybe they're a blend. And once you know the archetype, as I mentioned earlier, your copy practically writes itself because you know exactly which emotions to tap into just by the type of archetype that it is. So if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave a review and share this with your fellow copywriting and marketing friends. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next week.